Welcome everyone to the Hidden Power of Claude Masterclass, a masterclass on what makes Claude great and how you can integrate it into your workflow with clarity and purpose. I'm your host, Rob Cressy, alongside my partner, Colin Scotland. Colin, we're going to have some fun today, and some of it is going to come at the expense of me.
Oh yeah, Rob, you are lining yourself up today, my friend. For those of you that don't know, that Rob is an avid ChatGPT fanboy. He lives and breathes inside of ChatGPT. And my mission for today is to share some of the good around Claude, why I personally use it more than ChatGPT, and some of those use cases for Claude, what make it very special. And my hidden agenda is to convert Rob to a Claudette. I want to make Rob a raving Claude fan by the end of today's session. So you're in for a good one here. It's going to be fun.
And here's the framing of this, of why we created this, because one of the things that is very important, or is a tool in your creator tool belt in this AI era, is depth. So I'm not romantic about these tools. I look at the use cases and say, hey, what can help me create what I am looking to create? So whether it's Grok or Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT, a lot of people are challenged with the shiny object syndrome. We've got all these things going all over the place. What do I use? Well, for me, the way that I was able to throw that in the trash is by saying, boom, I'm going to go deep with ChatGPT. But what I loved about this is we can also be open to other perspectives, right? Sometimes in the world of AI, something will get to you at a specific time. So I said, hey, Colin, we know this sort of back and forth that you and I have between Colin tests out all the tools, Rob goes super deep. How about you do something on Claude? So uniquely in this conversation, I'm coming in from an absolute beginner side of things, but with an open mind. Colin is the expert in this. So we collectively together are going to row the boat and learn about Claude. I'm going to encourage you, if you've got questions, drop them in the comments there. I'll be sort of the megaphone for the people, for all of us here, because what Colin's really going to get into is how Claude thinks and why its tone, its ethics, and its long form reasoning make it extremely powerful. We're also going to talk about how to use it, enhancing your thinking, creating systems, and deeply being aligned as you grow. And for anyone who's new right here, Colin and I are the co-founders of Unlimited, a community all around using AI to grow our businesses in a human first perspective, because we believe that when you lead with your heart, we win. Anything you want to add to that, Colin?
The human first perspective means that we all connect with each other as human beings first, and then we leverage AI as the tool. And so you're going to see that woven through what Rob and I talk about. It's at our very core of everything that we do in these calls and inside of the Unlimited community. And so our encouragement to you is to engage with this material. If questions come up, drop them into the chat, share them with us. Let's unpack and go on this journey of discovery together. So we encourage you to engage with that information as we go.
And so here's how this is going to work. Colin's got a presentation that he's going to walk us through. My encouragement is going to be for you to have very active listening and to use your vision and say, all right, how is what Colin shares applying to me? Is this just about Claude? Is this about my AI mindset? Is this about my business? Because with these tools, we're learning skill sets in how we create in the AI era. Colin is going to give us a very use case specific on here's Claude, here's how he's thinking about it, here's how he's using this. But I always like to pull out a specific sentence or a word or a way that he's thinking about or using something. And this is a very simple way for you to add to your creator tool belt. So Colin, the stage is yours. It's time to convert me over to Claude.
Let's do it, Rob. You're in for a treat here, my friend. I love the idea of people mentioning in the chat here about sitting on the fence as to trying both. This is something I see and hear a lot. People are heavily invested into a tool or one or more of tools, and they look over at the other side of the fence and think, is there something better? Am I missing something by not using Gemini, Grok, Claude, DeepSeek? And the list is getting longer by the week, right? Crystal says you use Claude more than Gemini and no longer use ChatGPT. That's interesting, Crystal. We will unpack that today. So share any insights that are coming up for you as we're going through this stuff. I'm just going to bring my screen on. And I'm going to start by bringing this short presentation onto the screen. So can you see my screen there, Rob?
Yep, you're good there. We're seeing your Chrome browser.
Awesome. Can you see the presentation?
Yep, we see the presentation. So the presentation is full screen minus the seeing the stuff at the top. So it's just not auto expanding, but you're good.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to be taking this on and off, and ideally really looking at this sense of the hidden power of Claude, because there are constitutional elements, that word's going to come back in a minute. There are constitutional elements that make Claude stand out on its own against all of the competitors. And I'm going to share that with you in a second. And the idea here is I just want to frame this, because this is not about shiny object. This isn't chasing the next best tool. As Rob mentioned in the opener there, this is very much about the right tool for the right job, right? So using the right tool, using the appropriate tool for what it is that we're looking to do and to achieve. And so having been somebody who lives in this space and lives and breathes all of these tools for hours at a time, every day after day, month after month, I'm starting to see differences that make Claude very unique for certain use cases. Is it perfect? No. But for certain use cases, it's the standout and my go-to tool that I use and recommend. And it's that I'm going to try and use to persuade Rob to give it a try for the end of today's session. And the idea is that it's a slightly different kind of artificial intelligence. By design, it's architected slightly differently. And I'm going to share what that is and what that difference means really to us as end users looking to leverage this to amplify our impact. And Rob, I'm able to see the chat thread. Are you all right keeping an eye on that, my friend?
Yeah,
as we go
I've
through
got
this?
you good there. Aaron's got a question, but Colin, what we can do is when a question is pertinent and relevant to a specific thing, I'll bring it to you at the end. Otherwise, we will have some Q&A where we answer some of these things.
Yeah, and feel free, anything that comes up, just drop them into the chat. We will, if we don't get to them on the fly in the presentation, we'll certainly have a Q&A section at the end where we can go into detail on anything that's coming up for you around this. So I want to just look at how Claude thinks and how it can help you to think. The main fundamental difference is this thing here, this constitutional AI. So what that means is Claude is architected differently to ChatGPT. ChatGPT learns based on what we put into it. So we put information into ChatGPT, and then it has a learning loop where it learns and attunes its outputs based on that learning. Claude is very different. Claude has a constitution, just like you guys in the United States, right? There is an underlying framework that dictates what's right and what's wrong. It's based on human rights by the UN. It's not a just pulled out of thin air thing. It's an actual ethical framework. ChatGPT doesn't have that. So ChatGPT is a little bit like the Wild West in that sense, whereas Claude is based on a more grounded, ethical, arguably ethical framework because of this constitution. So it has what's called a supervisor loop, which means that it checks itself against the constitution before it gives you an output. ChatGPT and none of the others have that. That's exclusive to Claude. So what does that mean? For purpose-driven creators, for values-led individuals, then Claude can have a more aligned output. And we're going to go into that emotional element of that in a second as well. So I hope that makes sense. I've tried to keep that as simple as possible, a little bit of technical stuff behind that. But the idea being that it essentially has a different framework and architecture which dictates the outputs that you get. So it can be a little conservative on the negative side, and because it's not the Wild West, because it's more constrained by its constitution, it can be a little conservative. But actually, from a values and an emotional perspective, it is, for me, the standout of all of the large language models at the moment. At the moment, the top model is Claude 3.7 Sonnet. There is talk that 3.8 is on the very near horizon, perhaps within the next few days. But at the moment, Claude 3.7 Sonnet is the latest one. It doesn't top the leaderboards when there's a thing called LLMarena.com that you can go on, and it gives you the leaderboards of all the latest AIs of how they perform against each other. The latest version of Gemini Pro 2.5 is at the top of that leaderboard. Claude is always kind of like that third place, second or third place, and they have a very slower development process at Anthropic, so that they release models a lot slower, but they tend to be more stable when they do. And the big thing, one of the big things, there are a few. The first big thing is the context window. So LLMs work on a principle called tokenization. And what it means, if I say, write me an email, it breaks down every single word that I've used, write me an email. And each one of those words and letters is a token that then gets fed into the AI's architecture, as well as the sentence, as well as the word count, as well as the characters, as well as the character count. All of these things get broken down. And what that means is you can run out of tokens. If we go into a long conversation thread with ChatGPT, you can run out of tokens. The context window for Claude is one of the biggest out there at 200,000 tokens. And I've got a comparison table that will show you Claude versus ChatGPT in a second. But that is one of the big things and big reasons that make Claude a standout, because it doesn't go off on a track or off on a tangent. And Rob, I just seen you put in there, makes no sense at all. Sometimes LLMs make no sense. And I know it's in response to the LLM arena. And the reality is that sometimes our conversations can make sense, or the output from ChatGPT can make no sense. It can go adrift in terms of what it's sharing. And that's often due to us exhausting the token limits. So inside of Unlimited, we analyze our ideal clients. We create what we call an ideal client profile. And the process that we go through is called prompt chaining. So we take a prompt, we get an output, and then we chain another prompt to that output to build a huge ideal client profile. And often the process of that can fall down because the AI, as good as it is, because of this window, it doesn't always see or reference everything above it. And so that, for me, is one of the key things with Claude, is its ability to read more context, to understand more context. What does
Colin,
that mean?
Can I add one thing here?
Of course,
From an AI framing side of things, I get the whole LLM arena. For me, it is irrelevant and misplaced focus, because if we are constantly switching by who has the highest number one or the rankings or whatever, and like Crystal said here, she goes, I'm surprised Gemini is higher because the last few days, whenever I paste a photo or a screenshot, it can't read it. For me, this is all about shipping the work, right? The thing that stops a lot of people is if you're just going to constantly change based on the rankings, because the naming architecture of AI is so dumb. 3.7, 3.8, you've got ChatGPT with 04, 03 mini. You're like, none of this makes any sense to us. So leave that to all the tech people and instead say, all right, what are the use cases that I'm looking to ship? When it gives you more tokens, okay, that's a great thing. It can have more context. But for me, I spend virtually no mind share whatsoever carrying it all on, oh my God, this new model is the latest thing that's crushing everybody. I'm like, cool, ship the work. That's what matters to me.
100%. I'm with you on that one, Rob. So the idea that right tool for the right job, it's good to have an awareness of what's out there, because if we're analyzing 300 documents, then even a 200,000 tokens limit won't be enough. And therefore we would need to use something like Notebook LM to do that. So right tool for the right job. None of the LLMs, Grok, Claude, DeepSeek, Gemini, would work for that kind of an application. And so this is our emphasis here, is that we have an awareness of these tools, but we don't follow that. We're not like a cat chasing a shiny object, looking around at what the latest, greatest thing is in that sense. But there's a definite reason for doing that. And I'm going to get into that in a second as to why that context window is useful for Claude specifically for some of these use cases in business as well.
Catherine has a question, a quick one here for you. Is the 200K tokens within the pro plan or only the max plan? Do you know?
No, it's in the pro plan. Yes, it's in the plan.
Cool. Great. Proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So the context window, one of the places where it's highly relevant is inside of, I'm in ChatGPT here, and I've just gone into the customized ChatGPT settings, and we have some things that we can share with chat about who we are, how we want it to talk to us, and some background information. So Rob and I call this our power positioning statement and soul data. And you have a context window here of about 1,500 characters in ChatGPT. So this is where you give it the information, where you tell it, these LLMs are masters in pattern recognition. So you give it the context and the pattern that allow it to predict what you're expecting or what would be a good output for you. And so that window is very small in ChatGPT. Contrast that with Claude. This window is massive, 150,000 words. So rather than 1,500 characters, we can now put, so in business, think SOP, power positioning statement, soul data. We've got videos on that. We talk about that inside of Unlimited, but think about SOPs for your business, hiring practices, principles, processes, ways that you do all areas and avenues of your business, all of that. It's like a manual for your business that can all fit inside of this single context window. You can't do that in ChatGPT. That's got to be strike one, Rob.
No, it's an obvious hole in the boat for ChatGPT. And of course, the thing that has been the workaround for me and for so many people, which is actually a big differentiator, is the unlimited memory that ChatGPT has, right?
Yes.
Our ability to incept it. So the concept of every seed is or every input is a seed. We're just changing the infinite memory in ChatGPT becomes on the fly. What you're showing here with Claude, hey, you can give it all of who you are right out of the gate because we're not using the infinite memory. This is where, and this is holistically, irregardless of what LLM you're using, why you and I believe so much as that one of the big game changers is identity. How you are leveraging AI from a human first, identity first. So you're seeing Colin talk about, and Colin, I'll just slowly scroll down because I want to break down. So here's his power positioning statement, who he is. Here's his soul data, his personality, his purpose, his passion. Here's his tone and communication style. Hey, this is what he sounds like. AI not to do. So here's his core values. So Colin has essentially taken his soul data, who he is, who his essence is, and put it into Claude saying, hey, this is how I want you to create with me. One of the biggest holes in the boat for a lot of people is they don't put any of this in here, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, they're rolling in with the out of the box Best Buy version that just is generic. If you just pick up on a little inch like this, no matter what LLM you're using, this is the absolute game changer by putting your essence into there. That way it can mirror who you are.
Thanks, Rob. And look, even put in your power positioning statement. So in business, we have something called an elevator pitch, and we use a very specific formula for this inside of Unlimited. I am A, I help B to do C with D. I am Colin Scotland, an AI strategy and marketing coach. I help purpose-driven entrepreneurs to amplify their impact with AI. Just by having that level of context and giving that to the AI, you get so much more out. And then that just goes to the nth degree when we're able to give so much more information. So I've just got power positioning and statement and soul data in here. But imagine if we are creating a piece of content and we have a very specific SOP that we use with our team. So those things can be baked in to the context window inside of Claude. So if we say, help me to create my next YouTube video to any LLM right now, it'll just go wildly, it'll go into that wild west of its knowledge and it'll pull what it thinks you need. Whereas if we have a very definite use case, and you don't need to have an SOP, here's a hack for this, right? So you could ask the AI, any one of them, Claude, we'll use Claude in this instance, what does a world-class standard operating procedure for creating a YouTube video look like? and the AI will define what world-class looks like. And then you drop that structure into your custom instructions inside of Claude. So now the AI is helping you to see what you don't see. And then the AI is building your system as you go. So it becomes like a feedback loop. Most people miss that. Most people don't use the AI in that way. So rather than just say, hey, AI, help me to do this, first ask the AI to define what this looks like or what the world-class version of this looks like, and then have it leverage that framework to create your outputs. So that's relevant regardless of which
Colin,
AI
I'm going to
you're
highlight
using.
something you just said right there, because
Yeah.
this is we talk about tools in your creator tool belt here. And there's a lot of things that limit people, their own self-limiting beliefs of, I don't have enough time, I'm overwhelmed, how do I keep up with all of this? Or all these shiny objects, or I don't have a tech background, or I've never built an app. There's a lot of I am not in there. But you just identified one of the absolute unlocks of what I wish most people could just see. You actually don't have to know anything other than saying, can you help me see what I don't see? So
Yep.
some of my favorite prompts are, what is the hidden or non-obvious that I cannot see? Or, hey, ChatGPT, I want to create a short form video that leads with a hook. How do I even do this? Ask it how to do the thing that you want it to do.
Yep.
And when you do, this becomes, you don't need to be a prompt engineer or a prompt architect to just ask it, what is the prompt that I would need to put to create a world-class YouTube script? Create that for me first. And once you understand this, it's why we always say to our clients that you never have to wonder how to do something again, because the only thing that you have to do is ask any of these LLMs, how do I create the prompt, or how do I do this thing? And then it'll tell you, and you can either just execute that or then have that create the prompt for you. It is so simple, and it is such a valuable tool because you don't have to always be thinking about it or always know what to do. No, we're so good that we actually don't even have to know something or be able to see it. So this is what I would call your ability to know how to create the invisible. What's that mean? You don't even know this thing exists, but you know that AI can help you uncover what that thing is. Boom. And this is as simple as just saying, how do I ...
Yeah, love that. Thanks for sharing, Rob. Wouldn't, as we're doing a live demo, that I'm getting an internal server error on the Claude. So it's key.
Right.
How
Thank you,
joyful is
Crystal.
that, right? Yeah. How joyful is that? That's so cool. So I just did that very quickly in ChatGPT to create that SOP just to show you how that would work. But that process, that's a tenet by which I do every interaction almost with AI right now. What does world class look like? And then from that baseline of what it defines as world class, it does something quite interesting to the AI. It creates guardrails for the AI. So instead of it going into that Wild West, it uses the guardrails that it's created for itself. So it's a useful process that you can follow. And then I want to talk about some integrations that I believe will really swing this for you guys and for Rob, and about the writing tone. But first, I want to show you something here about the reason this constitutional AI, this constitutional approach to the AI, and the Claude's values-based approach, or its ability to understand nuances inside of language. For me, Claude really wins at understanding emotions and emotional drivers. Let me show you this. I'll show you this as an example. Rob and I had a call together yesterday where we looked at our unlimited community and how we're going to grow things and develop our community. And so what I did is I took the transcript, so use case alert, I took the transcript from our meeting and I dropped the transcript into Claude, and I asked Claude to analyze and summarize this transcript of a call I just had with my business partner, Rob, and help us to unpack the gold from our conversation. And more importantly, help us to identify so we can implement rock solid strategies where we can prioritize revenue and business growth for our unlimited community. So Claude did a pretty outstanding job of highlighting the key takeaways from what went on in that conversation. And I want to show you this as a comparator. So I did exactly the same thing in ChatGPT. And here's what it told me. Oops.
So it showed you the weather?
Yeah. So that I'm showing you that because that actually happened for me yesterday when I analyzed our session, Rob. And the reason I'm showing you that is because that's an example of, I liken ChatGPT as an adolescent dog, right? That's not quite trained yet and goes running off willy-nilly, like chasing rabbits and chasing other dogs. Whereas ChatGPT is like that. Claude is like that hyper-focused, highly trained, that German Shepherd dog that sat there and won't take his eyes off the owner, right? Waiting for the next command. And so that's an extreme example of what happened with me with ChatGPT.
Can I see your prompt,
yesterday.
Colin, at the top?
Yeah, so the prompt was, it was the transcript, and the prompt was exactly the same.
Okay, analyze and summarize the string of call ahead with remember. I want you to help unpack the gold. Okay, so in looking at this, immediately for me, what I would do, if it doesn't give me what I want, then that's on me. Because I think the simple thing is to say that the LLM is not, so clearly there was a called pattern interrupt or a hiccup on this, right?
Yeah, and it's linked to tokenization because that was, Rob and I met for 130 minutes yesterday, over 2 hours. So tokenization has killed that conversation because it's broken
there you go.
It's broken what ChatGPT is able to handle. So that's a definite use case when you are looking, if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're looking at analyzing significant amounts of data, then Claude is the go-to tool in my recommendation for that. Because let's say we have client surveys or transcripts of conversations with our coaching clients that we want to look at, then Claude has, because of that higher token limit, I'm going to stop and reshare my screen for you, Kelly, to see if that fixes it. Because of Claude's higher token limit, it's much better at handling those things for us. It's also got a better handle on emotional nuance. Hopefully you can see that now, Kelly. Emotional nuance. It has a greater depth of understanding of what we call in marketing semantic analysis. So if I ask Claude to identify this is an example prompt, right? What emotional dynamics are present between the participants? Are there any shifts in tone, subtle tensions, or moments of alignment or misalignment? What values or intentions seem to be guiding each person? So this is a good example. It's a good prompt, that, and it's universally applicable for you to analyze how you did in your sessions and also how clients are coming to that session with you. So if you're a coach, this kind of insight and analysis is priceless because it allows you to reflect on your ability to strengthen your understanding of your ideal clients. I've done this multiple times in all of the LLMs. Claude is standout best in class at this type of work. So any kind of semantic analysis and understanding has been just like crazy good.
Colin, what I'm going to do in the chat, I'm going to drop the prompt that I used for what you and I did right there. So there's like various elements of this, but essentially what I like to look for is, and I say this in the chat here, extract the most important insights, gold, and wisdom from the conversation in depth, identify the biggest opportunities, ideas, or unmet needs that we mentioned, highlight any market gaps, trends, or patterns, surface anything that reveals our current vision, values, or future direction, especially ones that we might not be seeing yet, and then help us capitalize on this brilliance and build momentum. We're both saying the same thing. I'm just showing the other ways of this. So for anybody who does anything where you have Fathom or you're taking an AI note taker, my encouragement, whether you use what I have, whatever you use what Colin has, create your own version of, we have a transcript. This is what I want to extract out of it. I just copy and paste this every single time because it's a daily occurrence that I have this, because remember, system scale. So this prompt becomes part of your system for extracting the good stuff out of a conversation so that one conversation can turn into many other things.
Yeah, 100%. And Isabella, Rob and I both use Fathom.video. There are many different transcription tools out there. That's the one that we both really like. The reason I like it especially is because for my coaching calls, it will email the client after the call almost immediately with a summary of what we discussed, key takeaways, key topics of discussion, and most importantly, actions that we both agreed to on the call. So from that perspective, managing a client relationship, especially if you're a coach or a consultant, it's priceless. I'm an avid note taker, but I have a mind like a sieve. Like, it takes me about 5 meetings to remember somebody's name without looking at them on the Zoom screen, right? And so nothing gets lost with Fathom. It catches everything. And so then I'm able to review that before the next session. And then you've got a word-for-word transcript that you can also use for this kind of semantic analysis that we're looking at here. So you can analyze your performance, where the client's coming from, and you can devise very definite coaching questions and strategies based on that analysis. So that whole idea of reflective work, of skills development for you, because it's so sensitive to nuance, because of that emotional understanding that it has, which based in that architecture of the constitutional AI, because of the way it's designed, it's built to understand and have a higher level of cognition around values and ethics and emotions. And so if we look at that in the game of marketing and business growth, understanding our clients' emotional drivers, our clients' needs, wants, beliefs, what they think about what we offer, what they think about us, and how we can help to create content that positions us as their go-to expert in that space, then understanding emotions is exactly needed for that work. So running through our Next Big Move program, which is inside of the Unlimited program, we essentially do that ideal client profile journey. Who's my ideal client? What's their prison state? What's their paradise state? How do we get them from prison to paradise? What does my offer look like? How do I create content now that is in alignment with that offer to attract new clients? It's like a marketing framework. And it's gold. I've run both of those inside of Chat, Grok, Gemini, Claude, DeepSeek. And thanks there, Catherine. The ICP work was a game changer for me, starting a new business. That's because what you're doing is you're diving in to really understanding those emotional drivers of who you serve. And so for me, in that process, I found Claude to be the most useful. I still use ChatGPT. I probably use them 60-40 in favor of Claude. And again, right tool for the right job. So the idea...
Colin, can I give a yes and here?
Yeah, of course, man.
We're talking about the use case specific with transcript. One of the things that I'm going to be doing later today is I want everyone, one of the quotes that I'm saying the most to my clients is the more you see, the more you can see. So when we do a 1-hour webinar like this, we will have we have a video of this, we'll have a transcript of this, we're going to put this into a gamma. So one turns into many. But if you're having calls with clients, or Colin and I having partner calls, or you're catching up with a friend or something like this, imagine using your vision to say, hey, what could I extract from this? And then how can I turn that into something else? This is very much what we call the hub and spoke strategy, or in Unlimited, we call this the content lighthouse process. Because one of the things that I'm liking what I'm hearing about Claude, Colin, is the emotional resonance. Because so often if we're going to be putting on our marketing hat, and this happened to me yesterday, I was on 5 hours worth of calls with clients and you, where I am seeing content in real time. Where I'm like, oh, that can be a something. Oh, that can be a something. Oh, that can be a something. And this isn't about, oh my God, I've got to hustle and grind more and be everywhere. It's what if building an omnipresent brand was significantly easier than we thought? And all you had to do was use your vision to see where you are already creating this, use the AI to pull out those nuggets. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to design a prompt that I use every single time that says, here's a 1-hour conversation. I want to turn this into threads for Twitter or for a post on LinkedIn. And where a lot of people get stuck or back themselves into a corner is they just think AI is just going to create the final version of this. What I want is the pulling out the ideas and the threads and the what are the little nuances that are coming up in this so you can talk about a specific use case or a thing, not a, hey, let me go and be a spam marketer that just puts stuff all over the place. This is what Colin calls content with intent. If you know your clients are talking about something, boom, let's extract it and say, hey, holistically, this is what I'm seeing in the industry. And then you can now use this as a launching pad to where you're now extracting more gold and doing something in a way that serves others. Because ultimately, when we're pulling something from a transcript, this isn't about create more content. For us, because we're human first, we want to create more impact in the world, and we can create more impact oftentimes by talking about the things that are challenges or problems for us, discoveries, the things that we've created, and we're just making the process better.
That's where it becomes a great thought partner for us, whichever LLM that we use. The idea is that I use it as a therapy tool to really unpack my emotions and what's going on for me and the things I can't handle, the things that I'm handling well, and how I can be a better human in all avenues and areas of life. And so this is, again, where for me personally, I get a better experience from Claude because of something I'm going to show you in a second called styles, and the fact that it understands that emotional resonance a little better than ChatGPT. So it's really powerful in that sense as well. Isabella asks about the privacy of information, maybe stay away from DeepSeek and things like that. So what I would suggest is that if you're in the wild west of LLMs with DeepSeek and Grok and all of these, Grok has a privacy opt-out thing that you can opt out of, to be fair. Claude by design is built with privacy in mind, so it doesn't by default train its model on your data. ChatGPT does. So you need to manually opt out of privacy in the privacy center of ChatGPT in order to stop it from training on your data. Claude does that by default. This is baked into how it's architected because of that constitutional AI that I mentioned at the beginning. It's designed from arguably a more ethical, privacy-first kind of framework, values-based framework. So by default, we would always recommend that you opt out of training any model that you're using. And if you can't opt out, as is the case with DeepSeek at the moment, then either don't use it or don't use it for anything sensitive. So you wouldn't put any sensitive client data or your sensitive data into there, because all of that is being fed into the AI to train it. Okay, so be mindful of that. Just like we wouldn't share our credit card details online. We're not going to be putting in the sensitive stuff.
Nugget on this, on how I think about this, because it's certainly relevant based on where things come in the world. It does matter to me where a company is located. So I'm not a data privacy. I opt out of the ChatGPT training data. I'm not the robots are taking over. I'm scared to put things in their place, but I am aware of where something comes from, right? You can just put it in the back of your mind, because if we have 10 different options, you would say, why would I not use Claude or Grok or ChatGPT if I can opt out of it? So don't overthink it, but do be aware, hey, where are these things coming from?
Yep. And we had a comment on our YouTube channel last week. I did a video on Grok, and it was Grok equals Elon Musk, sick emoji, sick emoji, sick emoji. I guess there's different propensities and perspectives around all of this. And our invitation to you is just to bring awareness to this. Just be aware of that. Be mindful of what you're putting in, because you are feeding data into this machine. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, but you should just do it with intention and with purpose. And we talk about analyzing transcripts. That should all be transparent. Hey, Rob, you and I are meeting today. I've got my Fathom note taker in the room. It's going to translate the call. It's going to create a transcript of that. And I'm going to use that transcript to analyze inside of Claude. Are you okay with that? It won't be shared between anybody except you and I. So having that upfront transparency, I think, goes such a long way. I've just put on the screen here a comparison of the two models. So you can see that token limit thing that we looked at here. That's one of the biggest beyond the architecture, the constitutional AI, and I'll keep re-saying it so you understand that ethical framework, that values-based approach. to creating AI. ChatGPT, in its favor, does have not a constitution, but it has what it calls policies and guidelines that guide how the AI responds. But it's a closed book. It's not transparent. We don't know anything about it. It's all done inside of OpenAI. And so there's an element of cloak and dagger around that makes me a little skeptical, honestly, that we don't understand exactly how this machine is being architected. Whereas Claude has, in my opinion, a stronger ethical foundation, values-based foundation. So that's one of the things that draws me. I feel a values alignment with Claude for that very reason. On a negative, it doesn't have persistent memory. So ChatGPT released something very recently where it remembers across multiple conversations. So these conversations are all siloed. They only exist in isolation. And if I say, when did we talk about positioning statements? Claude won't know. If I ask that of ChatGPT, it does. So it can read across different conversation threads. Inside of Claude, however, one of the things that I like to use are Claude. And these are essentially areas where we can create siloed containers with multiple conversation threads. So we can have lots and lots of conversations where Claude does remember, like a persistent memory across. We can set very definite custom instructions. You can upload data. So I've uploaded, this is my ideal client project. I've uploaded my ideal client profile into its knowledge. So it has, because of that context window, you can upload more into the knowledge base than you can in ChatGPT's projects. And because of that, then there's a greater level of context, better pattern, better context, being more specific in your prompts. You've likely heard this out there in the world, right? Gets better outputs. That's exactly what this does. More context equals better outputs. And so I tend to use projects in Claude for exactly that, for managing siloed things that I'm working on that I want it to remember. So when did we talk about how I can change my coaching offer to meet my ideal client's needs more? And it will remember those. These are the conversations I've had inside of this. These are just example projects I pulled up to show you, right? But these are the conversations that it will remember across conversations. So projects in Claude, for me, as long as we're intentional about it, has a very definite use case. One thing that it wouldn't do is if we're in a regular conversation on the fly and I say, hey, remind me what I wanted to do with my offer, it won't know. So we have to be intentional about what we tell it, because we're not talking to a human, we're talking to a machine. So our ability to give the right inputs to that machine give us infinitely better outputs. And so for me, projects are a very useful way of working on specific things. So if you're launching a product, a course, a program, then a project would be the place to go. If you're doing client work, then you could create a project per client, which has a similar effect as a custom GPT in chat, which Claude doesn't have. Rob, I can see a question on the end of your lips.
Well, there's two questions, one from Aaron and one from Catherine, that are related. So Aaron asks, can you have ChatGPT export a file for Claude to upload to expedite its learning? And then Catherine had a yes and of, given I've only been using ChatGPT for a while for my business, can I export my business chats into Claude so that I can carry on rather than start again?
You can export your data out of Claude and or ChatGPT. And so I find it doesn't always necessarily serve you to do that. The idea that we draw a line under everything that we've done and then we take out of our archive everything that we need it as and when we need it. So focusing on just in time rather than just in case. Would it serve you to spend a day porting all of your conversations into Claude? Probably not. But the important information, 100%. The way that I do that, the way that we run the next big move when we're doing these ideal client profiles and such, is to create a document. And from here, so we've created a SOP here for YouTube inside of ChatGPT, would be to just copy this and then drop it into a document. And then from your document, you can download as a .text file. This is important because of tokenization. The AI it's called parsing. The AI parses a file when you upload it. So a text file takes less parsing, takes less memory, takes less effort. It's easier for the AI to understand. So if you bit in a way that's easy for it to understand, it doesn't run out of tokens as quick. Okay. So you can upload PDFs, you can upload Word documents and all kinds of different file formats. But in my experience, plain text files are the way to go because you can upload so much more information in a single go. Okay. So that would be a process of taking what you want and moving into something useful. This is good practice because unlike Rob, I move in and out of different LLMs depending on what I'm looking to do. So I was using Gemini quite a lot yesterday. And so it's useful to have this context window. You could theoretically upload this text file. I could launch Gemini here or Grok, and then I could upload this text file into Grok. It now has, so I could upload our transcript of Rob and I's conversation, and it has that context. So it's good practice to keep in your second brain, your digital garden, however and wherever you file ideas, information, keep that information in a place where you can use and reuse. So the really good stuff, by default, drag it out, put it into my Google Drive, inside a folder. So I've got a reference place. And this moves me to the next bit that makes Claude my all-time favorite. And the reason I use it more than anything is because it has direct integrations with, let me go into this, settings. It has direct integrations with Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar. So I can now, just like with the memory feature of ChatGPT, we can say, when did I talk about positioning? I can interrogate my Google Drive using the AI. ChatGPT has a connection with Claude, but it doesn't have a deep integration like this. It's not the same. It's different. And so what does this mean? Now I can say, look at this. So I can say, identify what my calendar reveals about my work-life balance, create missed connections and personal ads based on my most interesting email exchanges. We can begin to interrogate and leverage wealth of data that we've got living inside of Google Workspace. My world is in Google. So for me, it's a no-brainer. So we can begin to interrogate that information to understand context, create more, better context of who we are, how we operate, and how we then show up for others. So I had the AI analyze all of my emails. Let me show you this because this will lead us into the next bit really beautifully. So I had it.
And while you're doing this, Tammy
Yeah.
has a question that's related. Sometimes I send passwords and sensitive information via email. Are you concerned about Claude reading your Gmail emails?
So the reason I would always only do this in Claude, even if ChatGPT could, constitutional AI, ethical framework, values-based approach to AI. So not cloak and dagger, dark box that we don't know what goes in and what comes out. We know exactly how, where, and why Anthropic is using our data. So in that instance, I'm comfortable. It's about your level of comfort. I'm comfortable leveraging this technology with Claude. I wouldn't be this comfortable with ChatGPT, honestly, nor would I be comfortable with any of the other LLMs out there doing this kind of stuff. Okay. So what I did is I had it analyze all of my emails throughout all of time and create what's called a custom style. So this is something else that doesn't exist inside of ChatGPT. These are custom writing styles that you can leverage inside of Claude at any point in any conversation. So I created a writing partner. So if I go into my custom styles here, I created a writing partner if I edit it, whoops, hold on, cancel that. So I created a writing partner by having Claude. So remember the advanced application that we want you always to use when you go to AI. Tell me what world class looks like, and then use that tell me what world class looks like to create the next thing. I had AI look at all of my emails throughout the whole of history, everything I've ever typed to other people, and analyze my writing style. So think about brand voice, about speaking as you, creating content that sounds like you, then the Claude created this output that I then edited a little bit, because we never take another tip, never take the first output. AI's output isn't written in stone. So I do these workshops and people are like, oh, give me this, but it's rubbish. I don't like it. So change it. Nothing. This isn't Moses coming down from the mountain with the tablets of stone, right? AI can iterate and reiterate and iterate and reiterate. Never take the first version. You can do better. Challenge it. Have it do better. So I did that, and then I copied this into here. So now anytime I want to ideate some content that, hold on, let me just cancel that. Anytime I want to ideate content that sounds like me, I will bring up my writing partner and I'll say, hey, we're launching a new webinar, a new masterclass tomorrow. Help me to ideate some world-class LinkedIn posts for this masterclass. Writing styles are gold. And another one of the reasons why I keep coming back to Claude, on top of those beautiful integrations as well, which we're just scratching the surface of in today's session. But we are going to go deeper, I believe, in tomorrow's Unlimited call, Rob.
That is correct. And Colin, just a friendly heads up for you. We've got about 7 minutes until the top of the hour. So if there's an airplane that you wanted to land on this, we are getting close to the end.
Almost there, man. So thank you for that. The idea here is that we want to be focused on when, where, and how Claude stands out and shines. So for me, that ethical, that constitutional AI that I've probably said too many times now today is very important, that values-based approach. When we are looking at emotional understanding, skills development, at really digging in to those emotional drivers of whatever the content is, whether it's our content, whether it's work that we're doing with a client, Claude is the standout. Because of that longer context window, it's much better. It doesn't go off like that wild adolescent dog telling you about the weather as much. It still
Colin, the good news is we don't take the first output, because you just taught us that. So even if it tells us it's going to get the weather, we say, wait a second, ChatGPT, we know there's an error here somewhere. Chuckle, chuckle,
and again,
chuckle.
Rob, yeah, I hear you, man. But look, so you're always about the system scale. So if we are having to reiterate
totally
at first iteration every time, that then compounds that then reduces the amount of time that we can do great work, right? So reducing and getting rid of that is creating that better quality output earlier
AKA more flow.
100%. Doesn't mean that you can't achieve that with ChatGPT, because you can, and I do regularly every single day. But for these specific use cases, for writing copy as a marketer, Claude outshines ChatGPT. Why? Because it understands emotional context better, because people buy on emotions, they buy on pathos, emotional connection, and therefore it makes sense that the language is more resonant. If it understands it, it can create more resonant language. Most marketers prefer Claude for that very reason, because it's much stronger at that, and because you can use projects, which are those siloed things where you upload all of the context, and you can also use styles where you can very specific about how the AI responds in terms of brand voice. So summarizing, understanding, seeing uses and use cases and insights into the stuff, that's where it really is powerful. And at the same time, as much as I throw jibes at you, Rob, for being the ChatGPT fanboy, there is a use case to say that there's a place for both, there's a space for both, and there's an argument to say that we can and should use all of the tools at our disposal. If we could save 2 hours of your day every day for the rest of your working life, what difference would that make for you? So the idea that we can leverage these tools, the right tool for the right job, can really allow us to do that. And so our invitation to you is to think about how and where Claude can fit into your workflow, not because it's a shiny object, not because it's the best out there at everything, because it's not, but it's the best out there at the things that I've showed you today. So when you're using it for those, when you're doing those specific jobs, that's when you would want to get involved and use and leverage Claude for that. So think about workflow, not winner. Okay. And then love to hear from you in our last few minutes. Any questions, anything that's come up for you around what we've talked about today, how and where Claude might support you. And as I mentioned earlier, Rob and I are going to dive into this a little deeper in our live unlimited call tomorrow at 11 EST.
So, Colin, are you able to create a new window and show what the back end of Money Networks looks like for everybody? From here's what we've got going on. If you've enjoyed this conversation here, Colin and I in our community in Unlimited are doing this twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays for 45 minutes each. Think of this as an opportunity, not an obligation, right? So we're all building businesses. We're all growing with AI. We all want to do so in a heart first, human first perspective. And we truly believe in people magic and our ability to create connection. So we want to create the calls where we can jam with each other. And then we've got a digital platform here inside of Mighty Networks where various ways for us to co-create, stay on top of what's going, and really use this as an intentional space to grow in a human way with AI. So this is something that this week we did our 110th call. So we've been doing this for more than a year, and we truly want to help you. We feel a responsibility to be positive forces for good, because we know there's not a lot of people and companies out here who are doing things the right way and with the intention that we have. So if this vibed with you, shoot Colin and I a DM, or you can go to weareunlimited.ai. We would love to have you join us.
Thanks, Rob. So we've got the last few minutes as we round out today's presentation. I hope you found it helpful, insightful. You see some of the reasons why I am arguably now a Claude fanboy. I don't know if we've done enough to convince you, Rob. What do you say, man?
Here's where I'm standing on this. And this is going to be holistic for all AI. We have all just invested 59 minutes together in better understanding Claude. The majority of the world has not done that. So for me, the big takeaway was the writing side of things. I'm a creator. I write blog posts, gammas, scripts, all of these things. And is ChatGPT or other AI a little clunky with writing? Yeah. Would I like a little bit more emotional resonance? Yeah. So the immediate use case for me is Rob sees Claude equals writing, ChatGPT equals everything else. From I'm not going to overthink this side of things. So what is the next step? It's all right, sign up for the free account. I'll probably just sign up for the paid one so that there's not a governor on what it is that I'm creating. And then you just go from 0 to 1. You say, all right, this week, I'm going to spend 10 minutes a day in Claude, or whatever the number is, because the thing that most people miss is the reps. Stack ones over zeros, because what we do not have yet, or at least from my perspective, is the habit of going, I'm writing open Claude. Right now, the habit says everything open ChatGPT. So for me, that's the big way that I'm thinking about this is I would use it as a writing partner.
Love that. Love that. And that's exactly what we talk about, right tool for the right job. So there are those definite areas where Claude outshines ChatGPT. It just does, right? And so having an understanding of that and then taking the right tool out of your toolbox for the right job is paramount. Absolutely paramount. So we're just at the top of the hour now. We're going to round this out and finish in a second or two. If there are any burning questions, feel free to use the raise hand function in Zoom and or type them into the
So Isabella's got one here. You say you primarily use Claude, but 60-40. How do you know what to use Claude and what ChatGPT for, and what should you use one and for the other for? Colin, make this concise and simple in terms of how you see this.
Claude equals insights. ChatGPT equals outputs. Okay, that's it. Although there's a bleeding edge to that, right? So there's sometimes I'll create the output in Claude, but by default, Claude always for insights and understanding and reflection. ChatGPT more for outputs, because it can be craftier at the things that it creates, ChatGPT.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, everybody, very much for attending this call. We are champions for you on your AI journey. Please reach out to us if there's anything that we can do for you or that you're interested in joining our community. Other than that, sending much love and good vibes your guys' way. Have yourselves a blessed rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Happy Clauding.